That's so fun.
Oh, here's a big kitten.
This is easy.
Cute.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Yes, we have all creatures great and small here today. So welcome everyone. We are joined today. We have a full house, two-legged and four-legged guests. So we are here today with our executive director, Laura, as well as Grete and Angela, who are our ADI assessors that came out recently to meet us and take PADS through our re-accreditation. So for those of you that don't know, PADS was the first ADI accredited program in Canada. We're very proud of that. But many moons have passed and we have to go through our re-accreditation every 5 years. So today we are talking about all things accreditation, but I am going to start and ask these lovely ladies to introduce themselves. And Laura, I'll start with you as people kind of come online here, and just kind of introduce yourself and share your role at PADS, and yeah, and then we'll kind of move around to Grete and Angela.
Yes, I'm Laura Wadamanuck. I'm the executive director with PADS, and I started with PADS many moons ago, 1994. And at that time, we were very fortunate to be mentored by a program in the States, Canine Companions. And we were the little tiny school at that time in Canada that was training service dogs, which actually was very new. Service dogs, we started as a hearing dog program. And the executive director from that program was extremely helpful to PADS and trained our staff and helped us with dogs end. And I, at one point in time in the late 90s, their executive director, Corey Hudson, introduced us to Assistance Dogs International. And he said, this is going to be an incredible network, and I think you should join. So he mentored us into ADI. And in those days, it was at the beginning stages where standards were being developed. Ron and the trainers, they were on the training standards. I was on the accreditation committee. And so when it was finally rolled out in 2001, we were very busy preparing for our first accreditation. And so, yeah, we are very proud of being the first Canadian school. And these lovely ladies were just here for our 4th re-accreditation. So this is number 5.
Yeah. So for those of you just joining us, we're here with Laura, our executive director, as well as Grete and Angela, who are our ADI assessors. If you want to let us know where you're chiming in from, either in the chat box if you're on Zoom, or the comment section if you're on Facebook Live, let us know where you're joining from. And you're also more than welcome to post questions in the comment section of Facebook or the Q&A section of Zoom. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Grete. Tell us a little bit about you, and not only your role with ADI, but your role in our industry as well.
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Grete Ada. I'm the Chief Canine Care Officer at the Guide Dog Foundation and America's Vet Dogs. So that is we are also a guide and service dog program. We're located on the opposite coast from PADS. We're on the East Coast in New York. And I got started within this industry about 1997, 24 years ago. And have just grown with my organization, and I absolutely love the mission, like probably so many other people who are tuning in. I care about the work that we do, and it's been just the joy of my life to have this sort of career. And I really got to meet all of the lovely people at PADS just recently, because I work also as a volunteer for Assistance Dogs International as an accreditation assessor. So from my point of view, I think organizations like PADS and Guide Dog Foundation, we all join ADI, both for the networking opportunities that Laura mentioned, and also because we all believe that people with disabilities deserve the best possible access, public access, the best possible dogs that we can provide for them, and the best possible freedom to live their lives the way that they choose. And so for us to provide that to the best of our ability, we want to be able to meet or exceed the highest standards that we possibly can. So we look to ADI to help us know what else is happening in the industry, what those standards are, and what we should be doing to make sure that we're always meeting them. And I got involved as an accreditation assessor for slightly selfish reasons. I love talking shop with other programs. I really love from folks. We all face the same challenges. We all have the same joys and struggles. And so to share that with people in this tiny, tiny industry has been wonderful. I learned something new every single time I visit a new program. So so we got to spend a few days together in, was it June? The
Yes,
time is flying.
June.
Yes, it was June.
Yes, it does. It always flies.
Yeah. And Angela? Oh, Angela just changed positions on my screen.
Thank you. My name is Angela Ventavenia, and I am new to the ADI programming. So
we're struggling here with our connection a little bit.
Oh, I can back up a little bit. Are we back?
I think it's on our side.
Let me see if I go off screen, if that helps anything.
Technical problems always.
So tell me if you can still understand me here.
Yeah, we can, Angela.
Oh, great. So the reaccreditation at PADS back in June was my first experience. I was there shadowing Grete. She's a fantastic mentor. So I am new to this volunteer position within ADI and kind of learning the ropes as I go. Full time, I work at a large school in Ontario, the Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides, where I specialize in hearing programs. We have 7 different service dog programs under our roof, but I specialize in the hearing program. I've worked there since about 2008 and moved from service dogs to hearing dogs in 2012. Thank you for having me today.
Well, thanks for joining us, ladies. We appreciate you being here. I think a lot of our community often wonders about why ADI. And for myself, it's the same. Grete. Oh, Tara just made me host because she's popped off here. Technical problems. But a lot of people wonder about Assistance Dogs International, and for our organization, yes, we are trying to adhere to the best possible standards. We're trying to support our clients to the best of our ability, but it takes a village, and it's not only within our walls. And our collaborations within ADI makes us better. And I too, the collaborations, the conversations, I look forward to our accreditation because it's a great opportunity to have both of you come in, view our work. And I must admit, it's always stressful preparing because there's a tremendous amount of work. And ADI just keeps getting better. I must say that. They have a full-time accreditation coordinator now, and Laura and Chris and the team, they're making us all be better. They're making ADI better, and they're asking more of us. And it's a lot of work, but it is so worthwhile to our program. So at the end of the day, having you come to our site and go over everything with us, and we brainstorm, and you're here to help us be better. But it's just a lot of great conversation that goes at the exact same time, and it is sharing the trials and tribs of our industry. Thank goodness our host is back. Hi, Tara.
We missed you.
I was panicking because it was saying my connection was unstable. So, one of the joys of kind of where we are is our internet connection is a little challenging at times. So I'm glad the conversation continued without me, and that the broadcast didn't end. So has everybody introduced themselves now? We have,
okay.
And
I just shared about ADI and how it is a little bit of work preparing for an accreditation, and how the industry is just getting better, so much better, but how valuable it is to have the assessors come, our peers, and to have great conversation about our work and insight on how we can do better. Grete's a long a long time assessor. So we valued her expertise, and we love to have Angela here as well learning. So it was great.
Laura, there's one thing that you said that caught my attention. You said it was
So
a little bit of work to prepare. She's not really telling the truth there, folks. It's a lot of work to prepare. I mean, the paperwork that gets submitted in advance is like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge amount of documentation that needs to be put together. And then you need to put together an agenda so that we can see everything. The hours that are spent are tremendous. And so, you know, PADS did an amazing job of getting everything perfectly aligned for us so that we could come in and see everything that we needed to see. My program also goes through the reaccreditation process. Obviously, I don't accredit my own program. Somebody else will come and do ours. Ours is next year, and we actually put it in the annual goals this year to make sure that we're all up to speed on compliance, because it does take quite a long time to go through all of the documentation and correct anything that needs to be updated since 5 years ago, the last time we went through the process.
yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So for those that are just joining us, I see lots of new faces popping on both on Facebook and Zoom. We're here talking with our ADI assessors, Grete and Angela, as well as our executive director, Laura. And so if you are watching and you have questions, you can pop those in the Q&A box on Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can pop them in the comment section. But with that, yes, there is prep that happens ahead of time. It was really my first accreditation that I was kind of entrenched in. I kind of been involved in kind of around the fringes, edges in previous accreditations. And so it was quite interesting to see the depth and the level. And I'd love, Grete, for you to talk a little bit about the different areas that accreditation touches on, because I think that's really important, that it's not just about the dogs and it's not just about the clients. It's kind of all the areas. Do you want to talk on that for a moment?
Absolutely. We really look at everything. So it starts by looking at all of the administrative processes to make sure that that not only are you providing high quality services, but you have all the pieces in place so that you can continue to provide those services, because it doesn't do any of us any good if we have some fantastic dog trainers and you're not able to run the business, right? You're not able to bring in the dollars to provide the support for the clients in the field and to get the highest quality dogs and provide for everybody's healthcare. But there's so much that goes into it. So we start with administrative standards, and that's a pretty exhaustive. That's where most of the paper comes in, quite frankly. It's a lot of paper. But then we also look at what are called client standards, which looks at everything from the beginning application process. Is the organization being fully transparent about what's expected? What are the costs of having a guide dog or a service dog? It's different for every organization. Some folks are free, some folks charge for their services, but it all has to be very, very transparent. We don't force you to do one or the other. We just need to make sure you're being honest, right? We're all being honest with the people that we serve. And we look at, how are we communicating with those clients? What is their training process like when they come in for their residential team training, or if a program goes out to the home and trains them in their community? What does that look like? Interview clients to get an idea of not only what PADS has said about their client's experience, but what do the clients actually think? What was your application like? How are you being supported now that you're out in the field? So we really get to know all aspects of the program. We also look at dog training, which is different than client training. Right now, we've got the folks who are actually giving the dogs the skills that they need. We're looking to make sure that training techniques are humane, that they are appropriate, and that they're getting good results, right? So we want dogs that are happy at the work that they're doing, and are also learning and not being put into situations where they're set up to fail. We look at animal health. We want to make sure that the dogs are cared for, that all of the pertinent information about them is tracked very carefully, that a dog that is not suitable for the program, that's identified before the dog is matched for a client as often as possible. It's not always possible. And if any of you are puppy raisers out there, there's something that I want to just say to you, and you may have heard this from the PAD staff before. our puppy raisers often feel that if their dog doesn't become an assistance dog, that somehow it was a failure. And one of the most important things that we rely on our puppy raisers to do is to help us determine whether a dog is ready for this work. So if you take a class full of kindergartners and you tell them all to be doctors, right? Say, okay, everybody, you're 5 years old. We want you to be doctors in, 15, 20 years. Very rapidly, some of them are going to be not suitable for that. Some of them are going to be great at sports. Some are going to be really good musicians. Some are going to be historians, right? They're not necessarily going to have the set of skills that's required to be a doctor. And it's the same with dogs. We're asking them to meet the highest level of performance. So if you help us with that screening, that's a great success. We'd love every dog to be successful, but it's much better to find out early than to find out later that they're not. But anyway, sorry, got off on a little bit of a tangent. So we look at animal health, animal training. We look at the breeding operations, how is breeding being conducted. And then we also look at, again, sort of the finished product. What kind of support is happening out in the field with all of the different dog types. So for PADS, you folks provide multiple different types of service dogs. So we got to meet with each type of client that is served to understand their experience better. I think that covers most of it, right, Laura? What did I miss?
Well, I think it's not only the paperwork, but the agenda you sent me and the scheduling that was required. You're meeting with people that volunteer in our kennels, people that raise our dogs, like every gamut of volunteer that's possible, our breeder caretakers, and then again with the clients, and then you're meeting with all of our staff, all of our leadership, touring around, and then our board of directors at the finish as fiscally and overall responsible for this organization. You do the interviews there. So it is very thorough. As you were chatting away, I was thinking this year was different for PADS because first of all, it was our first PTSD program accreditation. So there was a lot of development standards and training protocols and manuals and everything that's gone into that over these past years. And also, I must say, our program has changed tremendously in the last 4 years, really since COVID. So we had paper files that had to be reviewed. We had files that were on our server that had to be reviewed. And some people may not know, but we're undergoing a very comprehensive update and rolling out a new database. And we're really excited. We have a new industry specific client and dog tracker database. And so not only paper files on our server, but then our new database. So we're in the transition of going from old school to everything in one system where everybody's working off the same system, and it's going to be so much more efficient. But so there was a lot of process development when we're in the transition. So yes, that was a little bit of work too. But it is such a great exercise, and I have to comment that everybody that came in, all the interviews that both you ladies chatted with, they had such great things to say about the experience. They loved participating. They loved sharing their views about PADS. And so it's really kind of nice to bring in our community so they have a little bit more understanding about why ADI and why the accreditation piece is so important. And we're very proud of our participation in ADI, and we're proud of the gold seal standard. That's what I feel it is. And yes, at the end of the day, it feels like every 5 years, there's always change and evolution, and we're always trying new dog training techniques. We're always trying to improve our service and our product, which is assistance dogs. So everything is always evolving. And so when we get to the ADI point of reaccreditation, it's like, okay, we have to get our ducks in a row, and there's brand new manuals and everything is up to date. So it's kind of like when we hit that check mark, it's like, phew, and you feel really good moving forward. And I'll see you
for a year or two.
Yeah, very much so.
But I did really appreciate the level of detail, because I think for us too, it helps us to know, having somebody come in and look at things from the outside looking in, and sit down and have conversations with our clients, with our volunteers, donors, etc. Like having kind of that outside perspective connects dots for us that sometimes when we're in different departments or whatever, that we might not necessarily kind of see how all those dots connect. And I think that was a really interesting part. And like you, Greta, I love being able to kind of have those conversations and talk with folks. And I think even about what you shared before we went live about, you know, I was whelping puppies last night, and you were talking about this new little ultrasound tool that you have, so you can check for that last puppy, if there might be a last puppy. You know, just having those opportunities to kind of collaborate with other schools is also an incredible thing. So we did have a couple of questions and comments. Tip, who was one of our volunteers that was interviewed, said Mosley and I can attest to the thoroughness of the interviews. And Michelle was just asking, and I think she missed it at the beginning, Angela, where you are from. So one of our viewers is just asking, probably wasn't on when you shared that at the beginning. Do you mind sharing again?
No, not at all. So I work at the Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides, and I've worked there since 2008. I did my apprenticeship in the service dog program and then moved into training hearing dogs in 2012.
Wonderful. Thank you, Angela. So I want to ask, you know, the $1 million question, because I know our volunteers have been asking, like, overall, like, and I don't know what the official status is, because I'm kind of been out of the loop. I've been off sitting at the lake, etc. So what is the next step after the accreditation? What does it look like from here for PADS?
Yep, that's a great question. So after our visit, then we take all of the information that PADS submitted prior to our visit. We take all of the information that we collected during our visit, and we fill out an extremely comprehensive report. And that paints a picture of what our observations were. So Angela and I are not the individuals who will decide whether any program gets reaccredited or not. What we do is we paint a picture, we provide factual information about what we saw, and then the accreditation review committee goes through all of that information and makes a determination. So, you know, I can tell you that we had a wonderful visit with fantastic volunteers, very happy clients, staff members who know their stuff, right? So, you know, it was a great visit. It was a great report, right? But, you know, we still are waiting. I think the committee will be meeting at the beginning of September to review all of the final documentation, at which point then they would let you know. And what can happen is there are a number of different things that can happen when a program is reviewed. The most common for programs going through the reaccreditation process is that they get reaccredited, right? Because if you've already met standards, chances are pretty good, unless there's been a major change, you know, you're continuing along that same road of quality improvement. Sometimes there's a probationary period. So for example, if a program really has most everything together, but there are some essential pieces that just need to catch up a little bit, you know, some forms need to be updated or a procedure needs to be updated, then there might be a probationary period and then a review. So I've had situations like that before. And I can tell you that when I have had that experience, the initial response to the program was not happy about the probationary period. And at the end of the probationary period, they were so glad, because it actually gave them an opportunity to go through and revisit this process and get everybody's feedback. And very quickly they were, you know, everything was right back on track, but it was valuable for them. And then in a worst case scenario, an organization may not be reaccredited, right? And so, you know, this is different for those of you who work in education or in the hospitality industry. You may be accustomed, or healthcare, you have mandatory accreditation assessments, right? People who come in and they're really looking to find faults with your organization. This is very different, right? This is voluntary. PADS does not have to participate in this. They choose to. And our goal is to help everybody be the best that they can, right? So for us, if everybody succeeds, that's wonderful, you know, and that's where we want everyone to be.
That's awesome.
I think that's a really important piece. And one of the things I love about ADI is it's really gotten to a point of education, collaboration. There's so many committees now under the umbrella of ADI. And one of the committees I'm really happy to be involved in is the education committee. And now there's a new offshoot to that, and it's the candidate committee. And really the role of that is for volunteer committee members to work with new schools to help them prepare for an accreditation. And it really is ADI, and all of us want those that are interested in becoming part of the ADI organization to succeed. And so we help others. I work with 2 other programs that we're mentoring right now. I believe in Pay It Forward, thanks to Corey Hudson. Back in the day, you know, his help was invaluable. And from that, we have collaborations with trainers, have collaborations, and executive directors. You know, we have our own groups that we talk to, and it's an all-encompassing jobs, and it can be pretty lonely within our world. So it's really nice to have the peers, right? And we just help each other be better. I think that's really the point of ADI.
And Laura, I'd love to add to that how supportive ADI is, not just with their candidates, but even with I'm a new assessor. This is my first go at this, shadowing, and how intensive the learning process is.
Yeah.
And Greta mentioned many times, oh, I wish ADI had this level of support and education back when I started. And it just attests to how much ADI puts in, not only to their organizations, but to the people who are involved with them also. There's a lot of internet modules, and I am not, just like many of our clients, I'm not an online learner. I'm more of a hands-on learner myself. So being in it and being on site with you guys really brought the scope of what the assessment entails, and I'm really happy to discover how in depth it is, because it makes me feel good that my organization is part of this, and that we all do work together and we're all having the same common goals.
Yeah.
Great point.
Share something too for our viewers that might not realize this is that ADI accreditation, Greta mentioned that it's voluntary, but the thing is for us, especially in BC and Canada, is that our ADI accreditation is the thing that allows our teams to receive their BC government ID, that they're automatically kind of granted as program, and that would also be true in IGDF, International Guide Dog Federation program, because they're recognized as kind of of ADI schools. So I think that while it is a voluntary thing, it's something that is very, very important to us, particularly important to our clients. Kind of in a day, everybody is kind of battling the fake service dog world. Having those ID cards out when they're out in public and going into businesses and restaurants and doctors' offices and all those kinds of things. I will say as a client, I love that I have my government ID. And that is one of the benefits that our clients get to kind of reap because we are accredited through ADI. So I think sometimes people don't realize the connection, how those dots connect. So that's an important piece. I'm realizing that we're kind of right at time here, but does anybody have any last words that they want to share or thoughts or we have one question, and maybe Greta or Laura, I know you're both kind of involved with this in different ways. So how do schools acquire mentorship for the ADI application process?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think the first step would be to reach out to the ADI accreditation coordinator, who will then connect you with a program that is geographically close, and then also willing and able to give you the time that you need. So starting by going to the ADI website and reaching out to the, I think there's a kind of a member interest section of the webpage where you can get started.
The first step is candidacy. you become a candidate member. There's a number of qualifications that are required to become candidate members of ADI. And that's the point of this new committee. So someone that's coming new into ADI, there is a process now. There's online modules. It works you through all the steps and all the standards that's required to move from first year candidacy. Once you're approved for that, then takes you to the next step of working towards accreditation. It's something that does not happen overnight. And I think people think
the reading operation.
It doesn't happen overnight. And but I think it's also when somebody comes new into ADI and you look at the long list, it can be overwhelming. And so recognizing that there's all the new processes that are in play now, those that are members and are working towards accreditation, they're saying, oh, we sure wish that was in place when we were becoming into ADI. For sure, there's been an awful lot of work and development in that regard. And and I think there's anybody that has questions, that is great about ADI, just reach out to them. And there's a team of 4 staff, and I'm sure that they would love to, and they'll be able to answer any questions that anybody has about ADI.
And I just popped the link in response there to your comment asking the question to the ADI website, just where the information is. So I apologize for the weird feedback loop that happened. I didn't realize by posting that link in that I was going to turn the volume on my other screen. But ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. And I always feel bad because when I end the broadcast, it boots everybody off. But loved having you. And so we don't have the debrief kind of.
Tara, do I have time for just one more short story about the PAD staff
section that we're watching today? We really appreciate your time and taking time out of your day to. Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'll make this very quick. So one of the questions that I always ask as an accreditation assessor, I have lots of memories that I'll bring back from my PADS visit, but this one stuck with me. I frequently ask trainers, members of the training team, whether they be puppy or adult dogs, the question, what learning has inspired you? Who are the people that have inspired you in your professional journey as a trainer? There's no right or wrong answer to that question. Really what I'm looking for is this an individual who thinks they know everything there is to know, or are they actively seeking knowledge, right? And so what can happen is sometimes I get answers to that question, and sometimes I get a panicked, like deer in the headlights look. And whenever there's the deer in the headlights look, I know, okay, this is somebody who isn't really motivated to learn on their own. So I asked this question of a staff member, a PAD staff member on the training team, and I got the deer in the headlight look. And my stomach sank a little bit because things had been going so well. I'm like, oh no. And then the person said, do you mean this month? And their problem in answering the question was that there were so many sources of information that they were consulting that they weren't sure what period of time I wanted an answer from. So, and that was true pretty much across the board. Anytime I talked to somebody, they were always constantly learning new things about how to operate the business, how to train a better dog, how to provide better services for people, learning about the disabilities of the people that we serve. So it was just such a great pleasure. And you've got a group of overachievers.
Yes, we do.
So, which is great.
That's a great story, Greta. Thanks for sharing. And yes, we do. We have an amazing team and who work very, very hard. It's kind of the industry norm. I know, right? We're not the only ones out there, but yeah, we're very lucky for our whole community, be it staff, clients, and volunteers, and thank you, donors. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's been a pleasure, ladies.
We talk about how it takes a village, but I think one of the things I love most about our village is kind of that quest for learning and knowledge and doing things better. And so I also thank both of you for how you make us better, because I think that, when we go through something like this, it really does help us to kind of do that deep dive and that reflection and kind of see where maybe we have room for improvement. So appreciate your time, not just today, but through the reaccreditation process. And I know we are all looking forward to kind of hearing what the committee has to say when they review our package and whatever feedback they have for us. We're looking forward to that and how kind of our outcomes and results, et cetera. So, but I know I want to be respectful of your time and we've gone over here, but thank you so much for joining. And a few people are asking if this is going to be available to watch later. Yes, as soon as we go offline. If you're on Facebook, you can go back in about 5 minutes and watch it from the beginning. And then it'll also be published to our website, pads.ca/tune-in Tuesday. And there is hyphens between the tune and the in and the Tuesday. And all of our Tune-in Tuesdays are recorded there, so you can go watch them in perpetuity. And hopefully this one was not so choppy in the recording as it was in real life, kind of on our end. And I apologize for those watching if it was choppy at all. The internet does not always love us. So thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye,
for joining.
Greta. Bye, Angela.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks.
Bye, ladies.